All right, I'm hitting live because we need to start.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear us and see us. We'll be starting in just a second. Hopefully my audio levels are okay. Let me move this a bit. There we go. Oh, I need to do a mic test. Voice access, go away. Turn off voice access. Sound recorder, not voice recorder. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah, I guess I should probably test my recorder.
Oh yeah, we need to record, right?
Mm-hmm. Testing 1, 2, 3.
You can tell we're prepared. Let me put on Do Not Disturb, so nobody disturbs me. Well, I'm ready to go when you are.
Just making sure I've got the right microphone selected. Shall I hit record now? Yeah, probably.
Nope. We'll
No?
I'll announce when we're recording. Well, I gotta mute the live podcast.
How do you stop Skype opening up that extra pop-up window, man?
I know.
It's so
I don't
annoying.
think
It's the worst thing. I think.
How do you stop it?
I don't think there is. I've never seen one. Hang on, there has to be. Now that you mention it.
Oh, we're not allowed to swear on this, right?
We haven't started.
I
yet.
swear, YouTube would demonetize us.
Yeah. Hang on. Let's see. Notifications, maybe. No, it's not there. Maybe it's in video, audio and video, calling. Show call window when Skype's in the background. Okay, yeah, so if you go into settings and go down to calling.
Oh, God.
There's an option in there to turn it off. Oh, my God, it's so much better.
Wait, what was it?
Settings in Skype.
Yeah.
Calling, and then in there it says show call window when Skype is in the background. Turn that off.
Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing and now I can't find anything.
Always the way.
Yeah, I'll have to save that for later. I don't think we
hate
could.
this app. Hang on, I've broken my Skype, so I need to come back.
You have not.
I have. I've seriously broken it.
Okay. Why are we using Skype? Asks Jeremy. Because it's
we
free.
hate ourselves.
And we hate ourselves. That's right. Yep. We tried to use Teams, but Teams didn't have. Also, I don't want to install Teams. I just don't want to do that.
Settings, calling, show call window. Oh, all right.
This might be the latest we've ever started.
I have joined the Cool Kids Club. Are we now ready?
Jez is still not back.
Okay.
Hang on, Jez. I love how us using Skype is considered outdated when Skype is still a fully supported messaging platform.
Yeah.
Sad, isn't it?
Can you hear me?
Almost ready, folks.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Bear with me. Where do I change that setting?
Settings in Skype. Go down to the calling button. And then in there's an option that says show call window when Skype is in the background.
Oh.
I forget Jess is using a 17-inch monitor display because he's on his laptop, so he has no room.
Okay, are we ready now?
Yeah, we're ready.
I thought this was big. We're ready. Yeah.
I'm now recording.
I am now recording. All right, and we'll do the countdown. Oop. All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 282 for September 2nd, 2022. A lot of twos in that announcement there for some reason. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Rubino, joined with Zach Bowden, and we do have a Jez Corden this week as well. And we actually, although it was a slow last couple of weeks, it all hit this week. We have a lot of news. We'll try to cover it all. Hopefully, in 90 minutes. We have Surface Pro and Surface X merging, ? Zach will talk a little bit about that, as well as did the Surface Studio 3 accessories leak? Well, I think Zach is going to say yes. Also, it was a big week for foldable PCs in the sense that we reviewed the ZenBook Fold 17, as well as the Lenovo X1 Fold Gen 2 was announced, and I had a hands-on with that. UK regulator investigating Sony deal. So that's going to be really interesting. Jez is going to tackle that one. We also have ARM sues Qualcomm. I'll explain what's going on there, what it could mean for those Nuvia chips coming later on. And I'll also talk a little bit about how I switched back to the Duo 2 from the Fold 4. And I'll explain some of my reasoning there, and we can have all of us chime in since I'm sure we all have opinions on that. How is everyone doing this week? We'll start with Zach.
I'm good. I'm also tired.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Jez, what about you?
I'm good, and I'm not tired.
Wow.
I got up at 3 p.m.
Crazy.
Well, with all that, let's get started. Interestingly, we don't have Windows 11 news to kick off the week, so that's pretty good for the Windows Central podcast, which is fine. I've been putting 22H2 on more of my devices, so using the release preview, and it's been going swimmingly well. So, but Zach, you had a big, quite a few stories this week. Actually, I should point out, you did technically review Windows 11 22H2.
Yeah, but
so that review is actually now.
We can save that for another time. We don't have to talk about it today.
Fair enough, but that is up on Windows Central right now. You can go read Zach's thoughts about it and all the changes there in case you are curious. But you had one of your big stories this week was something we've been talking about for a while, and you've, I guess, pretty much confirmed that this is happening, that Microsoft appears to be merging the Surface Pro X line with the Surface Pro 9, which we expect later this fall. What does all that mean, and why do you think they're doing this?
So yeah, the Surface, what they're doing with the upcoming Surface Pro this year is that they're going to essentially offer it with two CPU options, Intel and ARM, similar to what they do with the Surface laptop. You know, when you go to configure a Surface laptop today, you can configure it with Intel or AMD. With the upcoming Surface Pro 9, we'll call it for simplicity's sake, instead of having a separate Surface Pro X product line for the ARM version, they're just going to consume both, combine both of them and say, here's Surface Pro 9, you can configure it with ARM or Intel. And that ARM chip will be the Microsoft SQ3, which will be based on the Snapdragon 8cx Gen 3, or Intel 12th Gen, likely P series, I keep hearing, which is insane. We'll talk a bit about why in a second. And that will be how it goes. So I assume the entry-level model will still be an Intel chip, but at some point within the sort of pricing structure, there will be the ARM options. And the ARM options, I'm told, will be the ones that support 5G. So that will likely be why they're a bit more expensive than the Intel versions, because that 5G component is usually quite expensive. But that's what they're doing. They are merging the lines. I've had a lot of people asking why they might want to do this. And I think the reason comes down to primarily, it's all about marketing. It's all about trying to normalize Windows on ARM. And it also, the Surface Pro X, when it was announced as a sort of experimental forward-looking device. That was their sort of end goal for the Surface Pro line. That's where they wanted to go next, and they weren't ready to do it yet because Intel wasn't there with its processors, and businesses weren't ready to sort of adapt and change the form factor. So that's why the Surface Pro 7 Plus existed, and Surface Pro X was the new design. But then Surface Pro 8 came out, and that essentially brought the Intel version up to the standard that the Surface Pro X was at in regards to design. So where do they go next? Naturally, I think, is they combine. They're almost the same product already, and with the 8cx Gen 3 this year, the ARM version performance is no longer really an issue, and it helps sort of sell the idea that Windows and ARM isn't this special thing that has compatibility issues that you shouldn't buy, which is kind of what the story's been so far, right? Everybody who reviews a Windows and ARM device, the review is usually, yeah, the battery's good, but performance isn't good, and also compatibility is an issue. Compatibility hasn't really been an issue since Windows 11 because they solved that with 64-bit emulation support. And at this point, the performance is more or less not an issue for most people, and you're still getting good battery life. And I think, considering the Intel version will be P series, the Pro 9 with ARM will probably have way better battery life because the P series is very hungry. And Dan can talk a bit more about that in a sec, because I know he's reviewed some P series laptops. But that's essentially what I'm hearing, is that they're going to combine those product lines, and it would just be Surface Pro 9, or maybe they'll call it Surface Pro 10. We don't know. It is 10 years with Surface after all, so it would make sense for them to call it the Surface Pro 10 and just combine both, but we don't actually know what it will be called. But there will no longer be two separate lines, one for ARM, one for Intel. It would just be one product line. And I think that's the right move for Windows and ARM as an ecosystem, because it helps normalize it, and that's what's really needed at this point, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely, a little bit risky, because there is still going to be a performance difference here. For those curious, this is going to be running the Snapdragon 8CX Gen 3, slightly modified, probably slightly more powerful. I'm currently running that in a ThinkPad X13s, and I'm like really impressed with it in terms of performance. They shouldn't even call it the 8CX Gen 3. They should just call it 8CX2 or something different, because it's really just a massive leap in performance that's not even comparable. I think most people would pick this up and they're just going to be like, feels like a normal device to me. As I said in other podcasts, it's equivalent to an 11th gen Core i5 for single core roughly, but blows past that. But it's more closely to, I think, like a Core i7 H series because of multi-core. I mean, it can, when it comes to multi-core, it's pretty powerful as a chip. So, and again, you're right about the emulation stuff. Again, running the ThinkPad X13s, I just put Photoshop Elements 22 on it, and that's been running great. I don't see any issue anymore. Like, you don't get a pop-up, the app doesn't run, right. It's not compatible. There's nothing like that that's happening anymore. So I think it is kind of ready. And you're absolutely right about the battery difference. So the P series chip is very powerful. Like, it's going to be this, if they put a P series in this thing, it is undoubtedly going to be the most powerful Surface Pro ever. I mean, it's going to be a massive jump in performance. That said, the battery life hasn't just been great on 12th gen so far. I have not been impressed. It's a step back. It's a regression, absolutely. Now, perhaps the good news here is Microsoft has a lot of leeway with these chips. Intel makes it so companies can adjust to TDP and basically move the window and all this kind of stuff about how much power it's going to use. So they might have tampered it down a little bit. Or let it go, in high performance mode, it's just full throttle, but your battery life won't be great. But in balance mode, it's going to pull back on the power consumption. So they do have a lot of leeway here. And my guess is they probably have manipulated it a bit. So it'll be more normal in terms of performance and battery life. But you're absolutely right. The Snapdragon version with ARM will absolutely kill the Intel version for battery life. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you're pushing almost 2 times the battery life, but it's probably at least more likely 3 hours at least in terms of performance. Plus, you're going to get 5G on top of that. And for me, that's just a winning combination. And we don't know, are they going to do the battery sizes, right? Because the Qualcomm chip is technically a little bit smaller than the Intel one. And so, this could be one of the, what I'm saying is this is going to have a larger battery than the Surface Pro X would have, since that's a thinner device, if they're using the same chassis and all that. Is that going to be balanced off by the fact that the 8CX Gen 3 uses slightly more power? I don't know, but it should get really good battery life by comparison.
I would say we don't actually know if they're going to dump the Pro X chassis and just put the ARM chip in the Pro 9 chassis. We don't actually know that. That's the assumption, only because logistically it makes sense for them to do that.
Yeah.
If you think about if they call one product the Surface Pro 9, accessory makers have to build accessories for that, and that's going to become a nightmare if there's 2 Pro 9s with different size bodies. I think the body needs to remain the same across both. Again, we don't know that for a fact, but I'm assuming that would be the case. And so there's 2 things they could do with the ARM version. They can stick a much larger battery in there, which means this will probably be the longest lasting ARM device out there. Well, maybe not, but especially considering old Surface Pro X's, for sure it'll be the one with the longest battery life. Yeah. Or they could put a fan in there and overclock the ARM version so it can run hotter and stay performant at the same time. Those are the 2 different options they could really go for. I don't think they'll go with the fan version. I think that the goal is usually fanless.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, the goal is usually fanless. So fanless with a bigger battery, I think, is what they're going to go for. And that should make that the ARM version of battery king, hopefully.
And don't forget, if they're keeping the chassis the same, they're going to actually have passive cooling with the ARM version, because they'll keep the vents, which is actually more than any other ARM device out there. So they would actually get that benefit too. And there's some precedence for this. Don't forget, when they started putting LTE in these Surface Pro for a while, those were the fanless models. Yep, they would take the fan out, and where the fan was is where they put the modem. So they're kind of returning back to that, the idea of like, oh, you want the LTE version or the Core i5 version. That's the Core i5 version. That's where you're going to get sort of the fanless experience. Jez, you've been kind of a big fan of Surface Pro 8. What do you think about all this for Pro 9? And are you going to buy your girlfriend a new version?
I think she'll be good with the Pro 8 for a while, I think. It was a beefy dent in my bank balance, that one was, but she needs it for uni and stuff. We were rocking a Surface Pro 3, and then like the screen broke, and then Microsoft upgraded us to a Surface Pro 4. So that's what she's been using for like the last however many years. That's been a thing now. I can't believe it's been 10 years of Surface.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like only yesterday this was all debuted and stuff. But yeah, I don't think we'll upgrade over the Pro 8. We're not like, she's not like a super hardcore power user. She uses it every day though, always drawing and doodling and stuff. It's such a huge leap for artists over like the Pro 4, like you'd imagine it would be, right? But like we got to a point where Photoshop was just too slow, to do any kind of detailing on the Pro 4, especially with throttling and the summer and stuff. But the Pro 8, it just demolishes Photoshop like it's nothing. Yeah. What I've been really impressed with actually is the Pro X. I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually have one.
Oh yeah, I bought.
Right. Yeah, you never got the keyboard though, right?
Yeah, I did get a keyboard eventually. I bought it separately. Okay. But I bought a Pro X secondhand from eBay for like $400, and I think it was stolen actually, because it's got a serial number Tipexed in like underneath the kickstand. So I think someone's like took it from work and put it on eBay or something, but they didn't mention that in the listing. But whatever. I just wanted to try it out and see what the fuss was about. I actually gave it to my mom in the end because she's a writer. She was using some really old Windows 7 HP laptop. I was like, here, try this modern computer that won't explode. And it's just been perfect, for what she does, like just Facebook and stuff like that. Battery life's crazy for that kind of thing.
I think that really highlights the tech bubble in a negative way, because a lot of the reviews for the Windows and ARM devices, including the Pro X, were rather negative, based on performance not being great. And that's always been the story since the Snapdragon 850 PCs all the way up to today. They've not been great. Only now are we starting to see reviewers say, yeah, performance is okay for the new 8CX Gen 3 devices. But the Pro X is an 8CX Gen 1/2 device, I think it is. And as Jess mentioned, his mom has been fine with it. And I think the majority of people have always been fine with Windows and ARM PCs. It's just tech reviewers who, since they're so privy to every PC they get passes through them, they can make those comparisons, whereas most people can't and don't care most of the time. It's like, this works fine for me. I can browse the web, do email, Office, watch YouTube. It works. And I think that really highlights the problem with ARM is not as bad as people say it is.
I think the problem with tech reviews, and like without going off into an hour-long tangent about like the tech bubble and stuff like that, is that like benchmarks are great, but they don't just reflect in the real world, I think, for a lot of people. And like tech reviewers, like they look at benchmarks because it's an objective way of measuring something, where like, some tech reviewers at least, but like I say, most people they're not running benchmarks and they don't even know what a benchmark is.
Yeah.
They're just like, can it run Word adequately? Can it scroll smoothly on Facebook? Can it run, YouTube video on full screen without stuttering? That's like where the usability on these kind of devices, I think, of. Mm-hmm. And even with things like Xbox Cloud Gaming, you're even bridging the gaming gap too now.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really, really great device, and I think merging it into the regular line will eliminate some of that ambiguity, maybe.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the ThinkPad X13S right now. I pick it up, it just feels like a Core i5 type laptop. You really just can't tell the difference anymore. Whereas before, there was always this sort of a little bit of lag when you launched an app and things were a bit slower and stuttery. So yeah, the other stuff I'm interested is what other internal changes. I get into the nitty gritty when it comes to performance. Yeah, the CPU is going to be important, but then there's also things like, are they putting in LPDDR5 RAM, which has really gone up to like 4,800, was it megahertz or hertz? I forgot how they do RAM measurements, but that's the latest. It's pretty fast. Are they going to use PCIe 4.0 for the SSD, which is a massive jump in performance over 3.0? Surface has traditionally kind of lagged behind on SSD speeds. And so that may be the case here too, but if they put 4.0 in, at least it would still be a massive jump. And when you combine all of that, it's actually, you get a lot of performance. And then there's the display stuff, 120 hertz. We'd of course see across the line, which would be important for the ARM version 2 to have as well. And then also the camera, the webcam. I want to know, I've seen tons of movement in this area. I was just reporting last week with the Dragonfly Folio has an 8 megapixel front facing camera, which we've never seen in a device before, at least I haven't. And HP is already doing 5 megapixel. And Surface has very good camera quality. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't mind seeing them, step up their game a little bit to sort of compete with everybody else and really focus on the fact that conferencing and video calls are just so important to today. Those are all the changes I hope to see with this device. Other than that, though, keep the chassis and everything else the same. All right, let's move on to Zach's other story here, the Surface Studio 3 accessories leak. Who leaked these, Zach? Where did they come from?
It was Microsoft.
Oh, yeah.
So these were actually discovered in the Surface app. I was digging around the latest update and found them. What these are is free updates to the Surface, the desktop version of the Surface keyboard, Surface mouse, and Surface Pen, the classic Surface Pen design. And that's really interesting because the last time those are updated, yeah, that one, what Chess is holding. Last time they were updated was when the Surface Studio launched in 2016. They've not been touched since. So why is Microsoft suddenly interested in updating them? Well, it's because a Surface Studio 3 is expected this fall. I've actually been hearing that a Studio 3 was on the cards for this fall for ages at this point. But these accessories pretty much confirm it. There are no real huge differences in at least visually. The keyboard has new colors. It's silver. Well, it's a new color tone. It's still silver. The actual base of it's still silver, but the keys are now white instead of gray, so it looks more like a Mac keyboard. But it has all of the Windows 11 buttons. It has the emoji key. It has the widgets button and stuff. So they've updated the function row and whatnot, which is kind of nice. The Surface Mouse looks identical, except it's slightly brighter. And the Surface Pen brings back the clip, which was on the Surface Pro 4 pen, and then they got rid of it for the Surface Pro 5, I think. And it looks like they're bringing it back for the Surface Studio 3. And that's an interesting one, because a lot of people, I think, were assuming the Studio 3 would have support for the Surface Slim Pen 2, like an actual built-in charging dock for it and stuff. And based on this accessory being a thing, I don't think that's going to be the case, because why would they do that if they were going to update the old Surface Pen? I think the Surface Pen will still be battery powered and attach magnetic, or replaceable battery and attached magnetically to the side of the display, because I think it just makes the most sense for them. They're already fighting for space in the box on the Surface Studio, and maybe they've made it a bit bigger, but I think they'd have to make it a lot bigger to actually put wireless charging in there for the Surface Slim Pen. So that's probably why they're updating the standard Surface Pen. But yeah, those accessories are a thing. They were spotted in the Surface app. And they will likely launch alongside the Surface Studio 3 this fall. And yeah, I guess they help confirm the fact that a Surface Studio 3 is on the way.
That is mildly interesting. Obviously, the keyboard looks nice. I mean, it's a keyboard. But I guess the big question, which we don't know about, of course, is Surface Studio 3 itself in terms of its form factor design. And if they did a major overhaul, is it more modular this time? All these questions. And to be honest, I don't want to know. At least I actually want to get surprised, with Panos and, on stage, presumably. We don't know there's a fall event technically. But we do, they do one every single year. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise. But I still want that kind of moment, where he's on stage and actually surprises everyone with this. And so I'm kind of hoping, that actually comes true. Now, I just want to get back to someone brought up a really good point regarding the Pro X and Pro 9 merger, which I forgot to even address, and which is Thunderbolt 4. That's a really good point. So Intel chips get Thunderbolt 4 out of the box, basically. You don't have to. You can actually not have that on there and just have Type-C. We saw that this week when I reviewed the HP Pavilion laptop. But ARM, we've never seen Thunderbolt 4 with ARM. It's never been done before. I don't think there's a technical reason why it can't be done. It does involve licensing from Intel, who owns that technology. So yeah, if they do this, the $1 million question is, did they get Thunderbolt 4 on ARM? Because that would be massive. And if not, how are they going to explain that to consumers who now that's another weird omission. So that's a really good point. I don't know how they're going to get around that. I don't know. That's something we'll have to kind of wait and see how Microsoft responds. But this is why we have these events. So hopefully we'll be surprised. All right, let's move to foldables, PCs with foldable displays. It's actually been a pretty busy week for this. So we actually got a review of the Asus ZenBook 17 Fold, also known as the UX9702 up on Windows Central. It got a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So going for it, it's a gorgeous 17-inch foldable display, stunning craftsmanship, multiple laptop modes, magnetic keyboard and touchpad, 5-megapixel IR webcam with Windows Hello, and surprisingly, good battery life. Against, well, it's got limited ports, no option for 5G, 4G or 5G. Well, that's a huge negative. Heavy for tablet use. It's expensive, and keyboard charging using a cable. And I think a lot of those complaints actually are going to just be standard for this kind of form factor. Now, what's interesting about this design is it still does have the gap when you fold it. So this very much looks like Lenovo's first X1 Fold, which came out in 2020, but that was only like a 13-inch device. This is 17, but has a very similar design. It has the same outer cover that slides back and forth when you open it. It has the teardrop gap in between. Other than that, though, it's got pretty thin bezels and a really nice design to it, and did well on performance. In terms of the processor, actually, it's a 12th gen Intel Core i7-1250U, so it's actually a pretty good processor. 16 gigs of RAM, Intel Iris Xe graphics, 1 terabyte SSD, a 60 hertz display. So all pretty standard fare, and it looks like a really nice device. In terms of pricing, actually, even I don't know the pricing of it. And I don't. Oh, it starts at $3,500.
What?
I imagine that includes everything with the keyboard, but even still, that seems pretty expensive. But
ridiculous.
Maybe they're only selling one model. Yeah, that is a little bit ridiculous. But the other big news was, and I've been hinting at this. Hopefully you guys picked up on it for a long time, which is Lenovo announced the new ThinkPad X1 Fold. They're surprisingly not calling it Gen 2. It is maybe kind of called the ThinkPad X1 Fold 16. So this is slightly smaller. It's a, 16.3 inch, and it's a 2024 by 2560 foldable OLED with 600 nit HDR built in. This also runs 12th gen Intel processors. They're the U processors. They are at 9 watts, so they configure them a little bit less powerful to save on battery life. These also are V Pro because it's a ThinkPad, so this is mostly aimed at business. Now, what's interesting about this device, this is a Gen 2. Lenovo is just way ahead on this. They're ahead of Intel and everybody else because they've just been doing this longer. So the big changes with this device, besides just being larger, is the fact that it completely closes flush now. There's no gap. It feels like a true book, which is really nice. The crease is also really minimized on it because of the way they stretched the screen. So this is more what you're seeing kind of coming out of the Chinese Xiaomi type of foldable phones that are out there. It also thinned out the bezels. And because of its larger size, now when you fold it in half and you drop the keyboard on, it's a full-size keyboard. It's the same size keyboard as a ThinkPad X1 Nano, so there's no more crampedness on it. The trackpad is also, or I should say touchpad, is actually a haptic one, which is the first time we've seen that in a keyboard that is not attached to a device. So that's actually a pretty big accomplishment there. I believe Stencil is the one behind it that we're trying to find out I'll try to confirm that later. Lenovo did invest in Stencil, and have used Stencil before, so it wouldn't surprise me if it is. But it's a really nice trackpad, and of course it has the ThinkPoint red dot cursor thing on there as well. It does have a 5-megapixel front-facing camera, but uses this new Intel technology where, because the camera is like on one side of the device, and this thing rotates in all different positions, the camera uses AI to basically zoom in and get you centered no matter what the orientation of the camera is, which is pretty wild. So that's neat. The big thing here, though, is also that they separated the kickstand out from the chassis itself. And the reason they did that, even though that was convenient, is so now you can mount this computer horizontally or vertically and give you like a really tall looking display, which you can even then bend. If you see my photos on Windows Central, you can see what I'm talking about, where it's kind of like a bent L. And then the keyboard just attaches magnetically. And you have a full size, basically a desktop type computer with a 16-inch display. It's really kind of wild. Of course, so you can also do horizontal. You can do book mode, where you just hold it like a book for reading documents or any of that kind of thing. You can, of course, use it as a full tablet, just straightened out. And you can use it by folding it in half and dropping the keyboard on. It turns into a laptop if you're on an airplane or a train or commuting. It does have 5G and 4G as an option if you like that. And Lenovo also impressively made this repairable. The front covers, which are now like, it looks like a ballistic nylon, but it's actually plastic, nylon's technically a plastic, but it's like recycled plastic or something like that. But it feels awesome. It has this like really nice grippy texture to it. Those panels technically can pop off. It's a little bit tricky. There's a glue that holds them on there, light adhesive, but then there's a special tool where you stick in a corner and they pop off. And you can actually replace the SSD on this if you wanted to. The batteries are replaceable as well as any other components on the boards. And that's important for businesses who are going to invest in this device. Criticisms for it, from my experience, it's all a little bit clumsy is my only concern, in the sense that you just took a laptop and deconstructed it, right? Now you have the display that's separate from the thing that holds it up, and you took out the keyboard. So this thing, when it folds up, it's very small. And I have it compared to a 16-inch laptop, just for comparison in terms of size and thickness. So it easily fits into a tiny bag. You could like fit this into a purse if you wanted to. You can't do that with a 16-inch laptop. So you get that benefit, but you also have like these 3 parts. And so when you go to set it up on your desk, you got to set up the kickstand, fold it out. It's like a kind of origami thing, put the kickstand. And then you got to lay the tablet down, and then you got to attach the keyboard. It's not as quite as convenient as just say opening up your laptop. But there are other benefits to this thing, in the fact that it has 5 different positions that no other laptop basically does, like book mode or act as just a flat tablet, and then change it to a laptop and all that, and go vertical, right? The vertical is important because programmers, people scrolling documents, who want to see a taller version of something, get that benefit here as well. It's actually pretty awesome looking, I have to admit that. It goes on sale, I think, around November. Starting price $2,500. Doesn't include the keyboard though. But it's impressive hardware. They really, really shaped it up this time, and they took a lot what they learned from the original X1 Fold and put it all in here. And I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. But I'm curious, Zach, and then we'll go to Jeds for your thoughts on these devices.
So it's $1,000 cheaper than the Asus.
Apparently.
How did they manage that?
Yeah.
So weirdly, 2 of them were announced in the same week. Which one?
Well, the Asus was announced.
You're right. It was
months
announced
ago.
ages ago. But
it's just a review.
Yeah, sure. So you've had hands-on with the HP, right? And I think Rich Edmonds reviewed the
Lenovo.
Yes, Lenovo. Sorry, and then I think Rich Edmonds reviewed the Asus, right?
Yep.
Based on what you know about both, which one would you say is technologically the better foldable? Not including...
absolutely Lenovo.
You think so? Okay, yeah. So
not even a question.
Yeah, because Asus is Gen 1, right? So I assume their folding methods is still not as good as what Lenovo is able to figure out. This is really interesting, but this is, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Windows still doesn't really do a good job at handling these devices. They don't have any native postures for the many different modes you can put a foldable into. Both Lenovo and Asus are building their own software on top of Windows to sort of strong arm it into doing things that it wasn't normally, which it isn't natively designed to do to accommodate for the postures, which as a result leaves for a sort of clunky experience. You can see it in the reviews for the Aces.
Yeah.
You know, when you put the keyboard on the lower half of the screen, the Windows just sort of pops up on the top half. There's no nice animation involved, and with the first gen Lenovo, that was actually quite buggy, and I assume it's not going to be much better with these newer ones, because Windows just is being pushed to do things it isn't natively designed to do at this time.
Yep.
Hopefully that changes in the future, but as of right now, these Windows, because they're both Windows 11 devices, they're not Android devices, they're full Windows PCs. They will be using third-party software to handle those postures, which isn't great, and I'm not a huge fan of that.
Jez, what do you think about all these foldables?
Well, I haven't read the full reviews yet. I just sort of skimmed over them, but like, I've just sort of like, not. This is like not an in-depth or well thought out analytical point. It's sort of like a first sort of thought looking at it and stuff. Like when it comes to like a folding phone, I get the point of it. You get a tablet that you can kind of fit in your pocket, sort of. But when it comes to a folding PC, it's kind of like, why? And I suppose like I need to read the full review to sort of I don't know, get a handle on that. But I get it. You get
check the Lenovo one, the X1 Fold. Yeah, the X1 Fold. And you can see, I mean, they would argue because it has 5 different use cases. You can mount it vertically, you can mount it horizontally, it could be a laptop, it could be a tablet, or it could be like a digital book, you know. And that's something a laptop can't do. Plus, like I said, it could fit into basically a purse completely, where you couldn't do that with a 16-inch laptop.
I think
fair enough.
I think what we're going to find is in the PC space, these foldables are a lot more niche compared to foldable phones. Foldable phones will become almost mainstream at some point, I assume, when prices come down. But I think always in the PC space, the classic laptop is always going to be preferred over something with a foldable screen.
You know what? Actually, I kind of see that now, because for Gamescom, right? Last week I was on the podcast last week because I was in Germany. I'm always in Germany. I was in Cologne. I was in Cologne for Gamescom, right? It was the first gaming event since the pandemic to check out Xbox's new stuff. And I've got a 17-inch Razer laptop, which is heavy.
Big boy. It's a big boy.
It is a beast. And when you combine it with the power brick, it's you know, it's like carrying a small animal, you know, around with you. It's a beefy boy, right? So I was like, I'm not going to take my entire laptop. So what I did was, I thought I'd be clever, and I bought a Bluetooth mobile keyboard that you could sort of mount your phone in, and I thought I'll just use Word on my Galaxy Fold because it's kind of what it's for, right? But it was a pretty awful experience, honestly, because every time you click in a text field, the text box comes up, and then you have to click again, and there's like this weird uncanny lag between Bluetooth and the phone, and it just wasn't a great experience. Like, and to be fair, I'm sure there's better accessories for it. Like, I could have got a USB-C keyboard or something else, and I think like if you pair a mouse, it sort of blocks the keyboard from coming up or something. There is probably some ways of doing it that I could make it a better experience. But now, like, I'm looking at this Lenovo review you did on WindowsCentral.com, and quick plug there, and I'm thinking like this would have been way better for me as a travel device, because I could have got that screen real estate, I could have got that portability with the keyboard, and just sort of plugged it all in, and without having to go through the rigmarole of trying to use a mobile keyboard on my Galaxy Fold. So I don't know. I kind of get it, but I also kind of think like, well, I've also got this. This is just gathering dust here in the corner. It's like I don't even know what that is. It's like some service. Is it a laptop Go or something?
Yeah,
I got just lying around the company sent to me. Also got I could have took this as well, the Pro 4, which is
don't take that on a plane, it'll probably explode.
It's got spider webs on it.
Nice.
It's literally that old. Oh, that is nasty.
I mean, it's definitely true. It's definitely true. You could have taken any of those, but I do agree. I think this device would have been perfect for you for traveling, because it's so compact. Like, not only does it fit in a backpack, it just fits in a little day bag, right? I mean, like I said, not that we carry purses, but it fits in something that small. It's just so. You may get a fanny pack. It could probably fit in a big fanny pack, but it's just so compact. And you get the benefit of using it like if you're on the airplane, you pop it open. It's basically a little over a 12-inch laptop. Uh, and with a full-size keyboard and a real trackpad, a good one too, with gestures and everything like that. So you'll get that experience. And then, yeah, when you're like, you want to sit down and you want to write either at the hotel or in the press room, you can bust this thing open and you get a nice 16-inch canvas to work on with that same keyboard. And so it all feels the same. And, for us, doing writing, I don't know, how you do write on a Fold. I mean, the Fold's got a 7.6-inch display. It's a pretty good sized thing, but it's still like if you're staring at that for an hour while you're typing, that's like, let's put it this way. I'd rather take a 16-inch OLED over that. And so I think for those people, it really would be beneficial. That said, as Zach pointed out, it's definitely niche, and especially the pricing. But Lenovo knows that, right? They knew that with the original X1 Fold going into there. They're pushing the boundaries, though, because at some point, this stuff will become a little bit more mainstream. And what I think the turning point will be, to kind of get around some of this clumsiness, is the fact we still rely on a physical keyboard. As haptics improve, and a company like Sensible is actually, working on this technology too, and you can get use a software keyboard to replace. Then you can just carry that around without the external keyboard, which then you have a whole PC that basically folds in half. And I think, and I assure you, haptics are going to get good enough. They kind of already are good enough to fool you to thinking that it's moving. If you have, believe me, go try an Apple laptop and try the trackpad, or go try the Surface Laptop Studio or the new ThinkPad Z13. These have haptic trackpads on them. You can't. Your brain is going to be like, that thing is moving, and it'll shock you when you power off the device and you go to press it again. Like it's just like dead. Like it's really a weird experience. The problem right now is trying to get the haptic technology under the display while keeping it thin enough. But that's what's being worked on. I think when they get there and do that, though, these devices are going to be really cool. And that's where you're going to start to really shift to the more mainstream uses of them, where your brain just thinks you're just using a regular keyboard. Apple's already supposedly experimenting with this, and there's rumors flying around that they want to do this on some of its laptops or something. And it sounds crazy to people, but I'm telling you, that is absolutely where the industry is going, but it's going to be years out from now. But Lenovo is getting ahead of the curve, and it's good for them, because they're already ahead of where Intel is and everybody else is in this industry and this technology and their experience with it. So by the time that stuff does come around, I bet they'll be the first one to do it, especially since they're investing in Sensible. They'll probably take the risk in doing it. So I think that'll be the sort of turning point here for foldable PCs. But yeah, this new device, I would consider a big stepping stone in the right direction, but definitely not something for mainstream. I also want to just point out quickly before we move on, there was another cool Lenovo device announced this week, which was the Glasses T1. This I'm actually very excited about, mostly because the pricing should be between $500 and $800. We don't know yet, to be determined. So these aren't like the Think Reality A3 glasses, which cost $1,500. They're very heavy. I don't like wearing them for more than 10 minutes. They have a bunch of sensors on them so they can like read your hands, kind of like HoloLens does. And it can do unlimited, technically, virtual displays when you plug it into a PC. The Glasses T1 are much, much more streamlined. They're way lighter. They don't have the sensors in them. And it has one purpose, which is to display a display. Just one display in front of you in an augmented kind of reality sense. In other words, you can see the display, but you can see the world around you as well. And how it works is this simple Type-C cable. That's all it is. It's just a Type-C cable. You plug it into your Android phone or any Windows PC. The Windows PC goes, oh, you just plugged in a second monitor. And you get a second monitor instantly popped up into your display. And if you wanted to, you can then turn off your primary display on your laptop, and you could just view through these glasses. And Lenovo is basically aiming this at anyone who just wants to use a computer or a phone in public, but have extreme privacy. So if you're on an airplane and you're working on NDA documents, like Lenovo, they were saying when they were flying out here, they're working on their presentations and all this kind of stuff, and stuff they didn't want other people to read. They just put these glasses on, and now they can work freely. Or maybe you're opening financial info, you want to check your bank account. When you're on an airplane and you have a 14-inch display, like literally everyone can kind of see what you're looking at. It's kind of like, oh, do I really want to do that? Or if you're in a coffee shop, you put these things on, you're the only person that's going to see them. I think the lower price tag, along with this single purpose usage. There's no gimmicks here. There's no metaverse. There's no floating games. I think it's going to be really interesting. And you can watch a movie on these. You can play video games with them, right? You can do anything you want. They do have it's micro OLED. Yeah, it's a micro OLED display. It's equivalent to 1920 by 1080 per eye. So it's full HD resolution at a 60 hertz refresh. So when you put these on, and I did try them on and get to use them, and it's a pretty sharp looking image that floats around in front of you. I think these things are awesome, mostly because this is the first time I've seen this technology where it's like, that makes sense. That pricing is getting into the range where it becomes more affordable. And you either need it or you don't, right? Like some people are going to see this and be like, yeah, I'm always working on, HP has their SureView technology where you hit a button and it blurs the screen so no one else can look on. There's a reason why that technology is important for a certain demographic of people. I think this is just an awesome solution. I don't know, Jez, do you have thoughts on this for gaming or any usage?
I mean, there's it's kind of hard because, did you guys hear that? Sorry. It was like a loud explosion coming from the valley for a second there. I hope the mic didn't pick that up. It was really loud. But I've lost my train of thought now. What was we talking about? The foldables, right?
No. So the glasses, the D1 glasses.
Sorry. Yeah, trying to
gaming.
Yeah. So Microsoft dabbled with augmented reality and stuff with some of their IP. Like they made that Conker game, but a lot of them were just sort of concepts and proof of concepts for Windows holographic, right? They weren't actually full-blown games. There's always been these sort of ideas about augmenting sort of what you're playing on your existing Xbox. Like maybe for example, in Halo, maybe you see the ammo count and the shield regeneration in the glasses rather than on the TV. But Microsoft's already tried stuff like this with Smart Glass. Do you remember that? Xbox Smart Glass?
Yeah.
It was like an app. It was an app for your phone that sort of surfaced details from the game to the phone to sort of augment your experience. Like, for example, I think it was Rise, Son of Rome for Smart Glass, where you could open the map on your phone. And also Battlefield 3, I want to say, or Battlefield 4. You could also see the whole map on your phone while playing on Xbox on your screen without having to open the map view. Kind of cool, but nobody used it because it sort of added an extra step on top of what already exists. Like, if the ammo count's already on the TV, do you really need it in your glasses as well? So personally, for me, I think if they do any sort of experiences like this, it'll have to be a game designed for it. Maybe stuff like Pokemon Go might work for it.
Well,
but even Pokemon Go is super.
I just want to set expectations here a little bit. So for gaming, I just meant simply, if you plug this into your Android phone, it would just display the Android phone's display in front of you,
like a window,
just like a window, and then you can play games that way. Or for instance, someone brought up to me they could lay in bed, put these glasses on, and play a video game at night, and it won't disturb their partner, and they get a special view of it. You could also do it with a laptop too. You can just plug it in, turn off your primary display, and game that way. That's what I meant by gaming. That's not AR gaming.
Oh, I get you. See, that could actually be really awesome, because this is literally what I do, right? In bed, I have a mount, and I put my phone above me so I can lie on my back and then play Xbox Cloud Gaming in the most lazy way possible while my girlfriend's watching the TV. Because, she wears the pants, and if she says, I want to use the TV, I have to turn the Xbox off or I get a beating. No, not really. I don't really get a beating. Don't call the cops or anything. But that'd be a really cool use case, because obviously you're limited by the screen space on the phone, but if you're wearing augmented reality glasses, you could have it as big as you want. I did briefly have a HoloLens, and although the field of view was kind of crushed, I don't know if the glasses, the Lenovo glasses, are any better than the field of view you got on the HoloLens.
That was my question.
It is.
Is it better? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm trying to go off memory here, but it wasn't as letterboxed But they also weren't completely positioned right, like because they come with this. They have custom nose pieces you can swap in and out, and you can adjust the actual image where it floats and all this kind of stuff. But from what I saw, like you saw the whole image without having to move your head around or anything like that, because it just followed where you were looking. I believe I forgot, but yeah.
But yeah, like I suppose like if the letterboxing situation is better, like the field of view. I mean, you could make it like appear bigger than what I can get out of a Galaxy Fold, which is it gives you a lot of screen real estate. So that's one compelling user scenario that I can think of that you mentioned. But
do they still look obviously technological, or are they just like as slim as a pair of glasses?
They're definitely not as slim as a pair of glasses, but they're definitely not as geeky as the Think Reality ones. It's somewhere in between.
Sure.
If you were wearing these, you're going to have a wire.
Sure,
It's a wired type C. So it's going to be obvious you have something on. But it's also nice because there's, like I said, no sensors on it. There's no front-facing cameras. There's no security privacy issues that, you'd run into in public. But it would be cool because the beauty of these is you can see your display, whether it's your phone in your pocket or your laptop on an airplane. Plus, you could still see the world around you. So you could like walk around with this and just have your display in front of you on your phone. I'm not sure you wouldn't be, you'd still need the phone to interact with it. Like I said, you can't use your hands in the air because it doesn't have those sensors. But I think it has a lot of interesting use cases. I just love its simplicity. It's just plug and play basically, and it'll work. It also work with an iPhone. You can, but you need an adapter to get it to work there. So we don't expect those until it's late 2022 for China and early 2023 for select markets. And they haven't announced pricing, but I know they're aiming for like 800 or even cheaper for them. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm very excited about these though. I think they're going to be I think real techie people who need this stuff is going to be very excited about them. I can't wait to get my hands on them again to try out. All right, let's get to a Jez story. The UK regulator investigating Sony deal. What's this all about? What Sony deal?
Okay, so it's not the Sony deal. It's the Activision Blizzard deal, right? So Sony has raised concerns about Microsoft acquiring Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and all those other Activision games, right? And this deal is worth $72 billion or thereabouts. I think the $72 billion earmarked for it. I think it'll be about $69 billion or something. But it's Microsoft's biggest ever acquisition by far, I think, right?
Yes.
And it's super important for Microsoft as they, face really stiff competition from Tencent, who own League of Legends and, tons of mobile games. And Tencent's the biggest company in the space. And they're just dominating with free-to-play games right now. So Microsoft, they don't really they're in a better position than Sony when it comes to free-to-play service games, but they're still not in a great position when it comes to mobile gaming, which is where gaming is now. Consoles niche, PC's a little bit healthier, but mobile gaming is where it's at now. For growth. So Microsoft wants to muscle in on this territory rather than try and build it up because mobile game is a completely different area. And Activision Blizzard is one company that knows mobile gaming. Candy Crush, Diablo Immortal, making $100 million a month, supposedly, right now, which is just nuts. So Microsoft wants to buy Activision Blizzard because obviously a lot of those games would be really good for Xbox Game Pass, which means you can get Call of Duty on your Surface Pro X without having to emulate the game, stream it and all that kind of stuff. It has a lot of implications for Azure, for Windows, for Surface, premium experiences through Surface Duo. I really love the way Xbox Game Pass works on the Surface Duo. There's like one big thing. That's one big reason I've held off the Galaxy Fold 4. Is because I want to see what they do with the Duo 3 because I really love that functionality. But anyway, I digress. All markets where Microsoft and Activision operate, they have to approve the deal, right? Every single market. So far, only Saudi Arabia has approved it. They've got to go through the big ones, the European Union, the United Kingdom, and America. So the FTC in America, European Commission in Europe, and then the CMA in the UK. The CMA is the first one that sort of officially expressed doubts and concerns about the market. So they've signaled their intention to do a broader inquiry into Microsoft's attempt to purchase Activision Blizzard and what it could mean for the UK, the competition in the UK market. From a legal standpoint, they don't have a leg to stand on. They don't have a good, compelling argument against Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard because Sony's number 2, Tencent's number 1, and even after Microsoft buy Activision Blizzard, they'll still be number 3 in terms of monthly active users and revenue. So there's no scenario where a regulator says you can't buy this company because it'll make you number 3,
Right.
So that's sort of where the story is. It's just that they're sort of investigating it more, which could signal that maybe the FTC will raise doubts as well. There's a lot of politics in America with regards to big tech and the idea that big tech needs to be regulated. But at the same time, Activision Blizzard's a company that's dying. Well, not dying, but it's not healthy. So investors who have their money tied up with Activision Blizzard, this is the only way they're going to get a return on their investment, because Activision Blizzard is probably not going to grow again.
Yeah,
it's a very unique situation, really, with acquisition stuff.
I'll say as well that Microsoft so far has sort of skirted under the radar when it comes to big tech and regulators and stuff. Apple, Google, Facebook, or Meta, now they're called, are all under the microscope there. But Microsoft has seemingly been able to avoid that up until, well, including now. They've still not really been, pointed out as a company that needs to be regulated. In the media, at least. And Microsoft does push it. Take the Mickey sometimes, especially with Windows, and some of the practices they're doing there are kind of questionable around forcing an online account, all of the forcing of Edge and stuff, which they have pulled back on quite a bit, to be honest with you. But they were doing it quite a lot with it, like in the last year. I don't know. It'll be really. You're right with them saying they're not going to say you can't be a third place competitor. It's the other two who can't really argue it, right? That's the problem. Sony wants to argue it, but they're in no position to argue it because they're above. If they were below Microsoft, then maybe they would have a leg to stand on. But because they are technically ahead of Microsoft in the entertainment space, it's really like no one's really listening to their opinion because they are already successful. They are above. They're already winning. So yeah, it's. If it does end up going to court, which is ultimately where I don't think the regulators want it to go, Microsoft will win, because they're just, there's no argument against it, really. Investors want it to happen. They voted overwhelmingly for this to happen. Blizzard staff want it to happen because it's the only way they get rid of Bobby Kotick, the CEO, and the fans want it to happen because it's the only way they get rid of Bobby Kotick, the CEO. It's the only way you get some of these old franchises back. Phil Spencer name-checked Guitar Hero. He wants to bring that back. He name-checked bunch of these classic IPs. Yeah, that remembers going to Guitar Hero, right?
That's right, man. Give me back to Xbox. I haven't turned my Xbox on in months, but bring back Guitar Hero? Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's that kind of stuff, right? Like, because Activision, they let franchises die just because they're not big enough, or they've become niche or whatever. And like Skylanders too, like Phil Spencer name-checked that because they want to get more franchises that appeal to youngsters. Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. Activision's not doing a lot of stuff with a lot of these IP and properties they've got because they just want to be a Call of Duty factory, really. Because they're easy for them to do, and they milked Guitar Hero to death. There was so many editions of Guitar Hero that
DJ Hero
it sort of it cannibalized itself, because that's what Activision does, and they're doing the same to Call of Duty. They're milking it to death, where there's a point where people get sick of it. But it is what it is, and I don't think the CMA can hold up this. They just want it in writing that Call of Duty goes to PlayStation.
I feel like this is mostly just textbook. They have to try. Sony has to not just roll over and be like, okay, do it. They have to kind of do a protest, even if they think the odds of them winning are very slim, just because like you just sometimes do this, right? To make it even look to your... Don't forget, Sony's a traded company, right? They have to make it look like to their shareholders they tried to stop this, even though they know there's probably no chance of success because the shareholders are like, well, why do you even just file something? Like, are you even trying to fight against this? So I think that's what this really is. It's just sort of like you just have to do this, make it like you're trying to fight it, just so the shareholders are happy, and it looks like you're putting up a fight, even though you probably know that it's not going to work. So, yeah, it's my 2 cents. I guess let's move on. We're going pretty well here in the podcast. Still got we're about halfway done, I think. Real quickly, I switched from the Fold 4 back to the Duo 2 this week after it was 8 days. I had the SIM in the Fold, and this is not going to be me trashing the Fold 4 at all. I think it's a awesome device. It's just not the device for me. And so I think Samsung has done a really nice job with it. It's a tablet that fits in your pocket, right? I'm stating the obvious here. That's pretty clear. So why am I, and I still have it here. It's right in front of me. Who knows? I don't know what I'm doing with it yet. I'm probably going to return it. Maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I'll keep it. I don't know yet. I don't hate it. There's a lot. So what do I like about it so far? The hardware is fantastic. Obviously, I love the processor. The cameras are great. And obviously that screen, the 7.6 inches, when you open it up, it's just magnificent, right? And Samsung's done some clever stuff with the software as well. They clearly putting a lot of effort in. And one thing I really do like about Samsung is, of course, even though I don't partake in it, is their ecosystem, right? If you wanted to get their new watch, you want to get their earbuds, like you can get into their whole ecosystem and everything's going to work well and work together. Like that's a big selling point. So all that stuff is really great. Why am I going back to Duo 2? Frankly, I think for me, I find the Duo 2 one more comfortable to carry in my pocket. And this is such a weird thing to explain to people, but it is. I know like people are like, but the Duo is so wide. And yeah, it's wide, but it fits in all my pockets. And I don't wear tight, skinny jeans. And guys, tight, skinny jeans are out of fashion anyway, so stop wearing them. But like I don't wear cargo pants typically. I really don't wear cargo pants anymore. That's another fashion thing. Don't do cargo pants. But it fits all into my regular pocket. But the weird thing about this is, and I've said this before, Surface Duo 2 is 21 or 28 grams heavier than the Fold 4. But you would never know because the Fold 4 is so dense the way it folds that when I put it in my pocket, like last week's podcast was called "It's Like a Gold Brick." It really is. It was like a gold brick in my pocket, and it was easy to slide out. When I carry the Duo 2 in my pocket, I barely notice it. I don't feel it, but I feel the Fold 4, so that bothers me. Pulling it out and using the Fold 4, this is going to be interesting, and I'm putting this into an editorial. Like I don't like the choice of screens, to be honest. When I pull up the phone, I have to decide, like say I check my notifications and I get an email and I want to respond to that email or read it or stuff like that. I now have to decide, do I want to use the compromise but kind of okay cover screen, or do I want to take the time, open up and just blow up this thing to a full tablet sized email and do that? That weird hesitation and like choice, it's kind of weird because you want to sometimes just use the cover screen because it's way more convenient. And that gets into the fact I just don't like opening the Fold 4. I find it inconvenient. Like I don't like the way it feels to hold, and I don't like the way it just requires more strength to open it up, and I have to pry it, and it's slippery. And that weird choice is just kind of strange for me with the Duo 2, and I don't find either screen good, or I should say suitable. It's like I call this the Goldilocks problem. The cover display is small, but it's like it's doable. You can do it, right? But if you just use the phone that way, like 80% of the time, it's like, well, why don't you just get the S22 then, right? And you'll get a bigger display that feels more normal. But then when I open it up, I'm just getting a giant display, and the tablet screen is almost too big. Maybe I don't need all that, or the process of opening it up, and I'm not getting really any benefit outside of just blown up and bigger, right? So that's like the too big. I just kind of want something in between. And with Surface Duo 2, yeah, I got to open it still, but it's way easier for me to open both physically and the way I grip it. It just feels better to hold because of how thin it is. But I'm getting two what I would call normal sized displays. Because the displays are they're shorter, especially with those bezels, which everybody hates, but I find useful for holding it. That shorter display means I'm not reaching as much, because when you go to tablet mode, you're doing a lot of reaching. you got to reach across to the top. There's a back arrow up there. And this is part of Android, right? Android's got weird stuff. So sometimes you're reaching to the top, you're reaching to the corner, you got to reach down. And I'm just like reaching way more. Whereas with Duo, I can do it all with my thumb. A thumb or a finger. It's just like it's really easy just to hold the device and do it like that. And because it's just I feel like ergonomically, Duo 2 is just overall, they went going super thin, and with these smaller screens, I think it's just a better choice, at least for me, in terms of using it. And that's really what it came down to. If you just, what I really like about the Fold 4 is just the hardware that could be updated in the Surface Duo 2. Yeah, put in a new processor, add more RAM, give me better cameras. I'd be happy. There's also the S Pen. The S Pen, I said, it's actually better, I think, than Surface Pen, both in terms of functionality and how it actually feels in latency, as well as what it can do. There's no argument there. But they went with a rounded pen, and it's just like when you get the holster for it, it makes it even that much bigger. So then you got to decide, am I going to carry the pen? Microsoft Slim Pen is just so much of a better solution. One, it sticks magnetically to the device. Or you can get the charging cover, so it charges that way. Or I forgot about my own solution, which I just redid, which is I bought this little pen loop and put it on. And I just carried it. And what I like about this is there's no way that pen's coming out, right, in my bag or something like that. And I like the way this feels, actually, when I open the device. It gives me a little bit extra grip. But it's a thinner solution. So I like the pen hardware design better than on Samsung. So those are all the reasons. I'm going back to the Duo 2. I'm just happier with it. I like running two apps side by side all the time and having that sort of screen space to do it, where blowing up apps on the Fold 4 just wasn't as satisfying. Yeah, I know I could basically split the screen and put two apps or even three apps there, where I can kind of do app pairs. But even the app pairs, when I would launch them, there was a delay that would happen sometimes before they would pop up. That was slower than the Duo 2. All these things just, like I said, it's not you, Samsung, it's me. So for people who love the Fold and all that, I know Jez does. I'm not trying to convince you not to like your device, right? I think for people who consume a lot of media, you use it as a normal phone with that outer screen, and then you sit down on the couch and you get a full tablet experience. I got that. I was doing that for a while too. But that wasn't as important to me as what I could do on the Duo 2. So I don't know. That's my rant there. We'll start. Jez, do you have thoughts on this? And we'll go to Zach.
Well, I did the same as you, but with the Duo 2, remember? Was it last year already? God. Yeah. I bought a Duo 2 and then returned it because but I had issues with the software back then. I was trying to run WhatsApp call side by side with Twitter or something, or Reddit or something, and it was just chugging really badly. But I think that's probably something that they've solved with updates since. But it was that specific user scenario, which I do a lot on the Fold, that just wasn't as performant on the Duo 2. And I was thinking, if it doesn't work for video calls very well, what else doesn't it work very well for, But I did really like it overall. The hardware was amazing. The camera I thought was, good enough. The Fold 3 cameras are horrible, frankly. My Note 20 had better cameras on it, I think, than this phone. I've been really disappointed with the cameras on the Fold 3, actually. But and also, it's just that screen real estate, because I do use it a lot for cloud gaming, and because you can span the game across the whole display.
Yep.
That's better for me. But I probably don't go outside as much as you, so I rarely use it in a way that isn't a tablet, frankly. I mostly use my phone in bed. It's the number one place I use my phone, because I don't go outside really. And if I am outside, I always use use it closed. And the only times I really use it outside is when I need to check a boarding pass or something, scan a boarding pass through in the airport or something, because I rarely leave the house because I'm a hermit. So I think it's, as a tablet, I think it's better than the Duo, but I think the Duo might be better as a phone.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing to say. So I think if you're someone who's a commuter, or you do frequently, are out of the office, I think I can totally see the argument that the Duo would win out. But if you're someone who mostly uses their phone at home and you prefer a tablet sort of scenario, like nothing will ever beat the Lumia 1520 for me. This is like the closest I get to that sort of massive, ridiculous screen. I love that phone, man. I dream about that phone sometimes. Sometimes
I don't know if I've gone that far, but
sometimes I have the 1520 in my dreams. This is scary.
It was that was perfection in terms of even the polycarbonate, the way it felt in the hand. It was beautiful. Great. Zach, what about you? You actually had the original Fold, and then you converted to the Duo stuff. So I think you and I are in agreement on a lot of this.
Yeah, all I'll say is, boy, would it be a shame if the Duo 3 ends up being a Galaxy Fold copycat.
So I want to touch upon that. So I actually do have a middle ground here, and I really like my idea. And yeah, okay. So I'm totally on board with them doing a single screen foldable, because the new Xiaomi Mi Mix 2 Fold 2.
Yep.
Is that what it's called?
The Mi Mix Fold 2, yeah.
Mi Mix Fold 2 is now out, and it's sort of like in between the Duo and the Fold 4 in terms of the screens. They're a little bit wider. They're still tall though, but when you close it, there's no gap, and there's really no crease. There's a little bit of a crease, but it's really minimized. But what's impressive is it's 0.1 millimeters thinner than Surface Duo 2 is when opens, and even closed, obviously. That's amazing, right? I mean, this is like way thinner than what the Fold 4 is. It's not even close. But they actually got thinner than Duo 2 with its 2 displays. And one of the arguments for the Duo 2 with the 2 displays was that they could make the screens really thin. I sounded Italian there for a second. I am Italian. They make it the skin. They made it the screen so thin. But now that this Chinese company came in, and they made a foldable with no gap, very little crease, and it's technically thinner than Surface Duo 2. Okay, that's reaching now into the Surface territory of what they consider to be their standard. Because my biggest selling point, and anybody who's picked up the Surface Duo or Duo 2 is blown away by how thin the device is. It's absurd. It really is. And they should and want to keep it like that. And this Chinese company just came out and said, oh, we can do that. The thing I would change is the orientation. I think the aspect ratio of the Duo 2 is better for what Microsoft wants to do. And so they should just do the foldable, similar aspect ratio. They could bring it in a little bit. I'm not like, there's no doctrine here. They can make it a little bit thinner. But and then rely on what they've already done, which is with Microsoft Launcher, that it treats that one display basically as two virtual ones. That is how Surface Duo 2 works. Android does not see two displays. It just sees one, and it draws in a gutter. And just do it with software, so that the default experience is that it's like having two displays with the app opening on each side. And of course, if you want to span, you just do what you do now. You just drag the app into the center, and it spans full screen. And if you want the app to always span, you set it into settings. You put it on the whitelist, and when you open it, it'll always be full screen. You do that, I'm actually really happy. Do I need a cover display for that? No, I still don't really want a cover display. But if you did do one, it has to be close to, and this is the other benefit of the Mi Mix, its cover display is pretty close to what half of the inner display is.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not like that on the Fold 4. The Fold 4's cover display is definitely narrower and smaller than what is on the inside. So if you can really thin out those bezels on the outside one to make it a very similar experience, so you can still then get tent mode and then use that as a phone, okay, I can do that as well. And don't forget that Mi Mix has a 4,500 milliamp battery, which is also amazing that they squeezed that in there. And it has pretty good cameras. So, and if we're talking a Duo 3 out next year, this technology is only going to improve as it gets there. So that design I'm okay with. I still prefer dual screens, but if they can do all that and give me a single screen foldable, and then we can all watch our videos without a crease in the middle, I think everybody wins, and I think that's a hit device where they still have a differentiator on. I don't know, Zach, you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything. The outside display, if it has a cover display, needs to basically be the size of a normal smartphone. It can't be this tall, thin thing like the Galaxy Fold. That's just not.
Yeah.
That's not good enough for me. Also, the other thing, and I'm surprised you didn't mention it. It needs to be easy to open. That's the other thing that that the foldables get wrong that the Duo gets right. The Duo is so easy to open, whereas
that's so good.
It has magnets, but they're not as strong as on the Galaxy Fold, where essentially the Galaxy Fold, and I assume most other foldables, locks shut. The magnets are so strong you have to peel them apart to get into it, which it makes it really hard to open with one hand. The Duo, I can open with one hand quite easily. They need to be able to do that with a single screen foldable if they were to do that for the Duo 3. I don't know how they're going to figure that out, but that's something I would hope that they stick with as well. But yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said there. The Galaxy Fold is a cool idea, but it's not for me. I certainly prefer the Duo form factor. And I will be quite disappointed if the Duo 3 turns out to be a single screen foldable. But if they can do the foldable right, all the things you just mentioned, Dan, then I guess I'm happy to accept it, even though it is technically a compromise in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I agree too. And I just realized it would absolutely need a cover display, if only because you'd have to take phone calls on this.
Yeah.
So of course, yeah, the long-term solution to that, to get around it, would be the reverse foldable display, which LG has demonstrated as a prototype. However, we don't know the stage of that in terms of mass production and being able to come to reality. I mean, that could be 2 years out, 2-3 years, but that would solve that problem at least and get the best of everything. It would need an outer display.
The only issue with that design, even if they could get it so it folds completely flat on itself like the Duo 1, is that there's still going to be a camera bump. So is there even any point to going down that avenue? Because one of the big issues reviewers have with the Duo 2 is that the actual taking photo experience on the Duo 2 is kind of cumbersome because you have to open it, blah, blah, blah. That would be the same issue on a Duo 4 with a 360-degree foldable screen without a cover screen. So I get
you know what that could do?
Go on.
I really like the mini screen that incorporates the camera bump on the flip, the new flip. Have you seen that?
Yeah. The flip, the Galaxy flip. Yeah.
It's like a little screen that just gives you enough control for, like, taking selfies and stuff like that. I think that is the perfect potential compromise they could do, where it's like, yeah, okay, I want to take a picture, but I don't want to have to open the whole phone. Give me a little screen that does some of that stuff, maybe even like give me a shutter button on it and stuff like that. Doesn't have to be a full-blown, screen, but it can be like a little module that has like the clock in it and stuff like that, notifications. I think that'd be a great design to explore, because I saw that on the flip and I thought, yes, that is great.
And Motorola does it even a little bit better on the Razr. They have a slightly larger display and has even more functionality. And Michael Fisher talks a lot about this, about how Motorola kind of gets it right. And I agree there. So it's either got to be a full-on cover display that matches the interior display almost one-to-one, or a smaller like OLED type display that has like notifications. What would be interesting though is, could they, you still have the issue of taking phone calls. So could they have their earpiece on the outside and use one of the microphones, so you need to open it? Like the call comes in, you just have that little LCD screen on the front. You take the call and you just put it up to your head. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to do this, and also a lot of choices that need to be made. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Fold 4. I'm just sorry. I love the Surface Duo 2. No regrets there. I guess speaking of, we should address the fact that is that the next story about the Duo 2 being available?
I believe.
Oh, we didn't. Was it even on the list? I don't think it's on the list, but we'll talk about it quickly. So Surface Duo 2, unfortunately, is increasingly hard to find as well. The Microsoft Store, both for consumer and for business, is completely out of stock. And Best Buy only has select models available. They've taken down the kiosks in the store. And it looks like it's just running out. Some countries still have it available, so if you do, congratulations. In the United States, though, it's very hard to find. So what's going on? Well, we don't really know. We have asked Microsoft, but it is a holiday weekend, so they probably won't get back to us until next Tuesday. But we'll update the story there. So we recently asked this or answered this in a Ask Windows Central episode, which is coming out. But the long story short is there's two theories. Actually, three. One is that this is it. They did one batch or big batch run of Surface Duos, Surface Duo 2s, and they've run out, and they don't plan on refreshing them or replenishing them, I should say. The other one, the more optimistic one, is that Android 12L is coming out, and they're running out of stock of Android 11 devices. Don't forget, these are flashed in the box, sealed up, shipped out, all that kind of stuff. And maybe they want to get Android 12L, flash that onto new devices, wrap those, ship those out, and put those, make it available. Not necessarily as a big run as the original one, but then they can also do maybe a new commercial push because they have a little bit more confidence in the Duo 2 this time around. I have no reason to believe that's the actual what's happening, but that is the optimistic and possibly, scenario. And Zach, also, what was the third? You came up with an explanation what you think they're doing with
the component shortage. They just
right, the component shortage. Yeah, they just can't make them. Right. Yeah, maybe there is part of the component shortage, and they're having to and you maybe think, well, you can get a lot of PCs now and stuff. Which is true. There are still some constraints, though. I'm still seeing laptops, OLED options sometimes being hard to get. And different configurations aren't quite available. So, but more importantly, Duo 2 has a lot of custom hardware in it. It has custom displays. The boards inside are custom. The wiring, all that stuff. It's a lot more difficult to make, which may tie into the whole idea of maybe they don't want to run another batch of them or something like that, or maybe they do, because they do need to have some of them for warranty exchanges, right? If people break theirs, they have to have some on hand to replace those with. You would hope, unless they give them like a gift certificate, which they could do that too. But I don't know. We'll have to wait until Microsoft gets back to us and gives us hopefully a real answer, not something canned. But we'll see what happens. But that is the status of Duo 2 right now. So yeah, there we go. Whew. All right. ARM is suing Qualcomm. This is ARM Limited. That is a capital A, small r, small m, not capital A, capital R, capital M. Difference is ARM Limited designs the chips. They don't make anything, though. They just literally draw up blueprints, and then they license them to companies like Qualcomm and MediaTek, who then take them, modify them, and actually go to manufacture them. Although, as we said before, Qualcomm doesn't even make its own chips either. It just further designs them, and then it goes off to a company like TSMC, who actually then makes the chips for them. Or I think Samsung is going to start making some of their chips too. But for some reason, ARM Limited is suing Qualcomm, and the reason is ARM Limited is accusing Qualcomm. Well, they bought Nuvia, this company that was started by ex-Apple engineers who developed the A-series chips that are used in the iPhones. And Nuvia was licensing ARM designs, apparently, and that license ran out, and Qualcomm hasn't renewed it, but has continued designing new Nuvia chips. And ARM saying that's basically some of our technology in there and our copyright information. Or IP, I should say. I don't even know how to word this, but it's basically their stuff, and that's what they're accusing of. And Qualcomm has pushed back on this, of course. And so, what does this mean for Nuvia? In the immediate thing, nothing, right? Qualcomm's still going ahead with developments. They're still expected to give those to OEMs late in the coming months, actually, for a fall or late 2023 release in actual hardware. This could, though, end up holding up the commercial release of those chips. If this goes to court and there's fines grounds. On the other hand, the Qualcomm could just settle with ARM for an undisclosed sum, as you usually like to see in these kind of things, where they resolve their differences that way. So I'm not sure it's going to have an immediate impact. It's not great, though. You don't want to see, Qualcomm was trying to say that, I believe the Nuvia chips don't rely on ARM technology, ARM limited designs, and instead it's its own designs. And the idea was they may long term, if these Nuvia things become popular and efficient and cost effective, Qualcomm could move away from licensing ARM limited, period, right? They could end up just developing all these chips for their own phones and just be like what Samsung's been doing with designing stuff internally. In which case, they wouldn't be paying as much, if anything, to ARM limited. And so ARM may be trying to, say, well, you owe us some stuff, and find a way to keep getting licenses and revenues from Qualcomm before they do this. Because Qualcomm has said, we're leaving both options open. Like if the Nuvia stuff doesn't work out, or we still need ARM limited licenses, we'll do both. We want to keep those options open. So I think this may be just ARM limited trying to protect Qualcomm pivoting away from them long term for chips. But I don't know. There we go. We'll see how it plays out in the courts.
Sorry, real quick. How does ARM even know that the Nuvia designs are using bits of their IP? Are they just guessing? Are they just assuming?
So, yeah, I think there's some of that because Nuvia apparently was licensing some of their stuff, and that license apparently ran out. And so they're just, I guess, assuming that the current stuff is still reliant on that. But yeah, I'm not really sure on all the details, how that goes back and forth. But I'll try to look into it a little bit more. All right, you two guys can now have fun and talk about Halo.
Yeah, I guess I can start with this because I'm the saddest about it. We'll keep this short because we are running quite long in this podcast. This week, 343 Industries announced an update to the Halo Infinite live service roadmap. And they've done this a few times now, and it feels like every single time they do it, it's just a barrel of disappointment. Basically, they announced more delays and the cancellation of a core Halo feature, just something that's been part of Halo for as long as it was the classic Halo. That they've sort of dropped this since Halo 4, I think. Halo 5, I think they added it later. And then Halo Infinite. They promised it. They were like, hey, listen, we know we messed up with Halo 5. With Halo Infinite, we will ensure that you will be able to do split-screen co-op. And then Halo Infinite came, and it went, and then they were like, yeah, we promise it's coming. And then this week they announced that actually we're cancelling that feature. Split screen will not be coming to Halo Infinite campaign at all. It's not happening now. And that has annoyed a lot of the Halo community. But also just the delays. This game was hyped up to be like, Halo is back. This is the return of classic Halo. It was supposed to be this whole live service thing. The multiplayer was free. And it was going to be updated consistently, constantly with new content, new features all of the time. And ever since it came out, they've barely done anything with it. It came out and it came out bare. There was almost nothing in it. There was a few maps. There was a very empty battle pass, and that was it. There's no career progression. There's no challenge. Well, there was a challenge system, but it's terrible. And they've been trying to tweak it. It's still terrible. We are on season 2 now, which is hilarious considering this game has almost been out for a year. Most other games are doing seasons every couple of months, so the new season every 2 months or so. Halo Infinite has had 2 seasons in a year, and that we're not getting season 3 now until March next year. What? What is 343 doing? I can't fathom it, and I realize that they are probably stretched thin. But it doesn't make sense to me considering this game has been in development since technically before Halo 5, according to 343. That's what they've said. I don't believe them. I think this game started development in 2019 because that's the only thing that makes sense at this point, because this game isn't done. It might as well be considered beta, incomplete beta, because we're still missing Forge. That's supposed to be coming in November with this mid-stupid season upgrade, which is supposed to add a couple of things, and they're going to test some stuff there. But this game did not launch as a Halo game. The campaign was great, but that's the only aspect of the game they got right. The whole multiplayer side, which many would argue is even bigger than the campaign side for the Halo experience, has been nothing but a letdown. In fact, I've actually gone back to playing MCC. I don't even play Infinite anymore. I play MCC again because that's where all the good Halo games are. Jez, what is happening? Can you explain why 343 isn't able to build this game fast enough?
Well, tell us how you really feel.
I know, it's just, I'm so sad.
It's quite hard to get like concrete sourcing on this because Microsoft's NDAs are serious business, and people generally don't want to violate the NDAs, for this kind of stuff, and I don't blame them, and I wouldn't ask them to either. But
I would.
It's not like,
tell me the story. I'm a Halo fan.
Well, yeah, but it's hard to get definitive answers on this. But from what I understand, the sort of management level structure at Halo, who aren't technical. The problem with Halo is it's so big. It has a strange leadership structure. But in most games and most franchises, the people leading the show are also very technical, and they're also very hands-on with development. And as a bigger studio gets, bigger the game gets, the more management you need from a business perspective and not necessarily a tech perspective. So from what I understand, there's been a sort of disconnect in communication between the previous studio head, whose name I can't remember right now. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's not there anymore. There was a disconnect in communication between the capabilities of this engine and what the public were being told.
Yeah.
Basically, some of the things like split screen, which are being communicated internally as aspirational, were then promised as definitely going to happen. And then we get Joseph Staten in, and he starts talking about like, we don't even know how we do respawns in an open world game. They hadn't thought about this stuff. They promised it, but they hadn't even started thinking about how it was going to work in the open world game. They literally hadn't started thoughting about it. Thoughting about it? That's not even a word. Thinking about it. They hadn't even started thinking about it. So, that's where some of this stuff comes in. And basically, we're just going to have a year now of unraveling what the game was sold to be, and you're right. I think it did only start development really properly in like 2018, 2019, and they slammed headfirst into a pandemic. The studio that wasn't set up for remote working, and basically everything that could go wrong with this project basically has gone wrong. And it's only through the brute force of Microsoft's money that the game still exists, really. I think there will, I don't, like you say, we've podcasts coming to an end, so I don't want to go on about it too much, but I think they will get Halo into a good place eventually. Like service games often do have these sort of renaissance situations, but the problem they've got right now is at an engine level. They have to sort out that engine stuff, and the engine can do some good stuff. It's been designed for Forge, and some of the stuff we are seeing from the leaked version of Forge is really impressive and really amazing. And I think Forge will bring a lot of new content to the game through user-created maps, user-created game modes, and stuff like that. So that'll help a little bit. But when it comes to the service side of the game, they are still building that. They're still building it, and it just wasn't communicated properly to the audience, because it wasn't being communicated properly internally what they had, But now Joe Staten's there. Things are going to be better. I do believe that. I'm not a Halo fan, but I'm feeling your pain, Zach. And all the Halo fans out there, I feel your pain. So, I would rather 343's budget just all went to the Coalition, to the superior franchise, Gears of War. So, I would, if the Coalition had 343's budget, I feel like they could do a lot more with it, But yeah, I think it'll be all right. It's just going to be more waiting. I know people don't want to hear that. We've been waiting forever.
See, the thing I wonder now then is why did they feel it necessary to launch the game when they did? Because they'd already missed their goal of 2020, which was it was supposed to be the flagship Series X launch title, and they missed that. They totally missed that, and they knew they were going to miss that. They pushed it a year. Why didn't they push it? Why did it need to come out in November 2021? Why not just hold on to it until they have a game that's complete? I don't understand why. But also,
it's hard.
The other thing I have onto that is why would they try to sell it as a complete thing? They could have been open and honest and say, listen, this game's going to launch. The campaign's all there. We're very proud of the campaign. The multiplayer is a work in progress. Why couldn't they just be... They were like, this is it. Here's Halo Infinite. And there's nothing in it. It's like, well, how? I just don't get why they wanted to set it that way.
You said it best earlier. It's basically an open beta right now.
Yeah.
Like, Grounded, for example. Grounded is launching as a full game. Grounded's another game that Microsoft makes with Obsidian. That's launching at the end of the month. They were open about that. We're like, yeah, it's made by a small team. It's going into, we're going to do a game preview, help us make it, give us feedback, blah, 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 blah. And we'll go about it that way. And now people did. They helped ship the game, and now it's launching. Sea of Thieves had this problem too when it launched.
Yeah.
It was bare bones. They launched at a full price. They sort of like, I don't want to say they misled people about what the game was, but when I went to game previews for Sea of Thieves, I got an impression about the game which was very different from some of their trailers they showed. But now Sea of Thieves is in a really good place, right? Serves millions of players and stuff like that. The difference here is that it's Halo. It's the flagship franchise. It's the one franchise Microsoft's supposed to get right. People are digging up a Phil Spencer quote from 2011 where he said, "If we can't get Halo right, then we're screwing up Xbox." So I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along those lines. So people are digging up all these promises and these things, and I think just because it's Halo that it's it's a very passionate fan base and a lot of disappointment. But I do think they'll get it back eventually, and a lot of people don't want to hear this, but it's still COVID's to blame. A lot of people have sort of like, they're sort of like, COVID's over now, the game should be instantly fixed. But there's like this huge dent where all the collaborative game development should have happened, that didn't happen because it couldn't happen. So all these it has this sort of knock-on effect where they can't collaborate properly. And they basically had a gap year. So AAA developers described it to me. They said we had a gap year. We couldn't do anything. And also 343 was uniquely impacted by that because remember, in America, the pandemic basically started in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah.
So they got slammed with that, with no vaccines, and they had very strict lockdowns, and Microsoft had one of the strictest corporate lockdowns too. So it really did impact Halo, and it's gonna keep impacting Halo until about Season 3. We hope.
Yeah. The other thing I'll mention is that they keep mentioning 343 is this thing called Priority Zero, which is essentially their word for we are trying to avoid crunch as much as possible. Everybody essentially works, I don't know what the hours are, but I assume it's a 9 to 5, like normal hours, and you are not allowed to work past that. And that, I assume, is slowing down progress quite significantly, but it's at the benefit of employee health, which I'm all for. But it is such a shame that it had to happen to this game, because it's like it is Microsoft's flagship, and it has.
That's the thing, right?
It's disappointed a lot of people. I think this game.
Well, game journalists, they talk a lot about crunch is bad, bad, and when companies implement anti-crunch policies, this kind of stuff happens. Game development gets slower.
Yeah, it does. A lot of developers, not everyone, of course, but a lot of developers are passionate about what they do, and they kind of want to work beyond hours because they just love the job. But with the Priority Zero at 343, I get the impression that they're not allowed. Like, you got to go home and spend time with your family.
I mean, it's almost frowned upon now to
encourage crunch.
Choose to crunch.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it's like, right. if you're like a developer or anything, or in any one of these industries implementing these policies, if you're the one worker in the office that is crunching, it makes everyone else look bad. So it's almost frowned upon now. Like, I see it in our own company sometimes, because I joke around, like, in our gaming Slack channel where I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna work all weekend, and like, it's, because I like it. I like working. It's sometimes when I'm bored, I just feel like, I'm bored, I'm gonna crack out an article, because I like it, But I don't know. It is what it is, and I think they will get back to the game. The game will find its legs. It's just, people don't want to hear it. It's just going to take more.
I hope it's more of a No Man's Sky story rather than an Anthem story.
Yeah, that's a good headline, there.
I gotta go. So,
me too.
If you guys want to just continue on without me thing of the weekend?
We've got to wrap up now anyway. We have to wrap up. So.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, we'll catch up on the reviews next week. I did review the HP Pavilion Plus 14, which is, I think, a very, very good laptop if you're on more of a budget between the $800 and $1,000 range. Go read that review. There's also a bunch of other reviews, which I'll cover next week, that our staff worked tirelessly on. We'll also do a thing of the week thing of the week next week as well. As always, thanks for joining us. We do record this live every Friday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube channel. And we usually do a Q&A with our audience, although we'll probably have to pass on that today. Sorry, folks. Just save up those questions for next week. You can follow me on Twitter at Daniel_Rubino at RUBINO, and follow Zach at ZACBOWN, and follow Jez at Jez Corden, JEZCORDEN. And you can also join Jez on his other podcast, called Xbox 2. Anything else you need to plug, Jez, or is that it?
Nah, I'm all good. Let's rock and roll and get Danny's haircut.
Yeah.
Yes, I gotta get my haircuts. Yes. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.
That was funny when Dan spelled out my Twitter handle. he was like BOWN, and then that's all he said.
I see. Yeah. Sorry.
That's right.
I knew that was going to happen eventually. Maybe get a bunch of people. Maybe someone create a fake account.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sorry, guys. We can't do Q&A today. Jez and Dan have to run because they have other engagements. But we will be back next Friday to do the questions as normal. Hopefully the podcast won't run as long, and then we'll have time for questions.
Exactly.
All right, guys.
All right, take care, everybody. I'm out of here. Bye.